Welcome to Marked Close One, where we talk about how sales and marketing work together. We skip the theory and business school buzzwords to give you practical strategies you can use today to fill your pipeline and close deals faster. Let's get to it.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Marked Close One. I've got a guy here that I've really met and actually really have had some good conversations with, Kevin Hops. He's the owner of SmartBound. But what we're going to be diving in today is really the kind of the general engine when it deals with sales. It's the outbound side of it. It's going to be the actual cold calling, the cold email, and so on. And I couldn't think of anything better than having Kevin here for this one. Kevin, if you would, can you kind of dive into maybe just introduce yourself, your experience prior to SmartBound? Why do you create that business? And kind of go from there, if you would, please.
Absolutely, John. Thanks for having me once again here. I know we got connected actually because one of my reps cold called you. I do believe. And that's how we ended up thinking this might be a good time. And
right.
Hey, I'm still crossing my fingers I could sell you some of our services at some point here. But hey,
I like it.
We'll take that offline. So my name's Kevin Hop. I am a self-proclaimed outbound geek. It's kind of the easiest way for me to refer to myself. I've been involved in outbound sales since the very beginning of my career. I started as the first employee at a startup. That was my first job out of college. So extremely raw experience. After that, I got an SDR job, got promoted to AE, and bounced around like a pinball to a bunch of different AE gigs, always thinking, this is it. I finally found the job. They got demand gen. I get to be a closer. This is what I get to be. Turns out, John,
you got that cape.
I did not end up finding that job. I never had demand gen figured out. And I'm at my heart, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm very entrepreneurial, and I got obsessed with the equation and the problem of outbound sales. Now, specifically for your audience, I want to just tailor like 90% of my experience is in B2B, and most of that is in tech, right? With a heavy emphasis in people and HR tech, cybersecurity, managed service businesses, and of course, your general tech startups. So I've worked with well over 80 different businesses in the last decade.
Dude, that's awesome. Let me ask you this one. Let's do this first question as a real lob. And I would say it probably is going to be the driving force of why you actually started your own business with this. But, with you working with 80 different businesses, what's the biggest difficulty that you see small businesses face when they're trying to run outbound sales? Either it's themselves, they have it where the owner is wanting to have somebody else just sell the service and they are just going to sit back and do the fulfillment. What do you typically see? What's kind of the general scenario that you fall into when you're like, all right, let me try to sort this mess out?
Yeah. How much time you got?
Right.
I hope your listeners are sitting down and they're comfortable because, we could do a few hours on this one, man.
Right.
So the way that we think about it, the way that I think about it after doing outbound campaigns for at least 80 different businesses. And by the way, I've been a cold caller for hire. I've built multiple different agencies. SmartBound is my second cold calling agency that I've built. It's not my first time doing this.
Awesome.
I also have done consulting projects for over a dozen different businesses where I build SDR teams and bring in process structure and strategy. And I've done straight up training for SDR teams. Most notably, my biggest account I ever did was Mimecast. So Mimecast is probably a name people have heard. I trained their entire 50-person BDR org. Pretty cool. So when you're talking about outbound and B2B, I'm not just a guy who, had an SDR manager job and got popular on LinkedIn and then is now an authority in outbound, and there's a lot of people out there like that on LinkedIn, which makes me roll my eyes aggressively.
Right.
I've had to boil what I do down to an elementary science in order to find ways to apply it to different types of verticals, different stages of company, right? So I've worked with everybody from a solo founder who just has a really cool app idea and wants feedback and needs to get meetings in the market to massive organizations, right? And everyone in between. So when you ask about the pitfalls, with SmartBound, the way we've positioned ourselves here is to help people with the outbound equation. And I'm giving you the keys to the castle, everybody, right? I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy. And the Hormozy method is I'm going to give you the secrets, okay? I'm going to tell you how to succeed, exactly what you need to do. And guess what? I sell implementation. So if you don't want to do it for yourself, give me a call. But here's the secrets. Here's how to really succeed in outbound sales, particularly in 2026 and 2027 and beyond. I mean, this is what we're seeing consistently across all of our customers. And when I talk to other agency owners and actual sales development professionals, it's very consistent, right? It's a 5-step equation. The 5-step equation is, I'll run through it quickly and then a little slower, right? It's people. The people that you have doing outbound need to be trained in outbound, which is not the same as normal sales, which is not the same as marketing, which is not just something that anyone can do out the gate. It is something you need to be trained to do, and you need to study it in order to understand the difference between cold conversations and normal conversations. Technology, you need to have tech, right, to make this easier. Processes. So people, process, and technology. So you have people that are trained in outbound, you have technology, and you need to have a process as to how they use it. Most B2B organizations that are failing with outbound choose one of these 3 and say that's the solution to our problem. Well, we got a head of RevOps coming in and leads will start flowing. That's a process thing. Well, I hired a BDR and he says that he knows how to cold call. So, we're good. It's
money's going to be coming in.
Yeah, he's a young guy, but I believe in him. He's got a lot of, or they say, oh, look, we got it. I got this tech platform. They told us that everyone on this tech platform, it's 2 buttons and we got meetings coming in, right? That's very, 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 very common that founders think they solve outbound by nailing one of those 3 pillars. In reality, you need all 3, but that's not all. You need the last 2 pieces, which is your targeting and your messaging. So let's go over the 5. Again, I'm giving you the secrets, everyone in your audience, if you want to nail outbound. It is people, processes, technology, targeting, and messaging. If you nail all of these, you're going to have a predictable outbound funnel. And the problem is a lot of vendors out here are selling their solution as the solution for outbound. A lot of old school founders think that people are the solution. Johnny just graduated from Penn State. He'll do great. And they let him try to figure it out. Or the most classic mistake that I see early stage founders make is they take someone who's senior, someone who has a lot of pedigree and has sold a lot of big deals. They get kind of burned out. They get fired from their corporate job, or they get recruited away to become a first sales hire. Ooh, right? And then they say to them, yeah, just build outbound. And that person hasn't done outbound in 9 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, man, a long time. And so in those situations is where kind of SmartBound comes in as an agency play, but the 5-step formula applies. Got to go about figuring out, how do I get the right tech pieces in place? What's the operationalization? How do we operationalize this? Do I know my messaging? And do I understand exactly who I want to target? And you really got to nail all those. If you're off on your targeting, you send 1 million emails to the wrong people. You can cold call the wrong people all day and night. It's not going to help. You got to know who cares about what you do. And it's not always obvious.
Right. Well, let me throw this one back at you on this one, man, because I don't know if this would be like distilling it even further or how you. So you've got all of these common struggles. Like, is there ever like a specific gap or an inefficiency that kind of is the primary thing that you look at, of where if they could solve this, it might at least fix, I don't know, 60% of their problem? Or how do you typically see that one, Kevin?
Yeah, great question, actually, because there are some levers that you pull that make a much greater impact.
Yeah.
Now, the number one thing that, so I mostly work with tech startups, right? In the startup world, it is a race. It's always a race. What is venture capital money for? To light time on fire, right? It's really about time. That's all it is. You could get these things done slowly but surely as a small, profitable business. Venture capitalists come in and say, hey, here's $10 million, get it done by next year, right? So when you're trying to light time on fire, the single biggest lever you can pull is to speed up the way that you take action. The most practical way to talk about that would just be to say, get a dialer, an auto dialer, a platform that makes a lot of calls at once. So what you're going to find out really quickly, man, our data's trash. I am talking to the wrong people all day. Or you're going to find out, man, I think we're talking to the right people, but shoot, nothing's converting. Our message is off. Or you're going to find out, I bought the nice auto dialer and Bobby from Penn State, not click
Right.
and go. He's not click and go. My dashboard says 12 calls on the day. What are you doing, Bobby? So when you give people tools to succeed like that, it like a dialer is probably the single biggest lever you can pull because it's going to light time on fire. You don't have to have an auto dialer. You can call one by one. Is it going to take a lot longer and suck way more? Yeah. But a lot of founders will look at like a $200 a month subscription to a dialer and scoff. Oh, come on. Are you serious?
So expensive.
So expensive. Yeah. No, in reality, you need to talk to your market if you're committed to doing outbound. And the best way to do that is to get in touch with a lot of people.
Like that. To go along with it, I'm assuming with how many that you've worked with now, you kind of see the same general trajectory and so on. So if you've got a company that before they get to a go-to-market engineer or a conversation agency or something like that, is like, do you typically see a certain pattern when it comes to their approach? Do they go with internal hiring first and then they want to do, I don't know, freelancers, or then they got to panic because those aren't working. They fire whoever, it goes to a specific tool, or they want to start using AI. What is there a general kind of roadmap that you see of where it's like, okay, well, let me uncluster this entire mess and we'll kind of just start fresh? I mean, do you see that often of where there's a particular path to it?
Yes and no. So let me talk about two different angles, right? Like people that end up working with us that are good customers, and then people that end up looking at us and going, right? So those two paths are fairly well defined, right? And I just I built a thing that I call Compass with Claude Code that gives me an entire view of all of my sales calls and what goes wrong and what goes right, and analyzes the things I'm saying. And I built like a Gong competitor. I did it in a weekend, and it's awesome. It works really well. I'm a Claude Code savage. I'm on Claude Code all day, every day. 22 million tokens spent this month, by the way, in case
my gosh, man.
Yeah, I'm building some serious shit. So anytime I think of a thing that I could do better in my business, I could learn from, that I could use data with, I just build it with Claude, and it's there. Which is separate, which is not what we're talking about. But anyways, the two areas of like when someone succeeds, when they don't, like my favorite is when people come to me and they say, hey man, we've invested time, effort, energy, and money in this, and it's not working. That is the number one cue that I'm going to win the deal, because once you have started to do something, you want to finish doing it, right? Once there is a committed movement by the organization of we are growing outbound, we're going to do this, that means that they're pushing budget to the side of the balance sheet that is sales and not marketing. That being said, I wish I was a marketer. Because like marketers, like I don't even know what marketing does, man, but like it seems cool. All right. It seems like, yeah, we drove
from the sales guy point of view, it sounds like they're able to do all of these things and leads just show up.
Yeah. I mean, marketers just seem like they just have fun, like it just seems like a fun job, and it's an analytical job, and it's much more of a behind the scenes and make a decision. And sales is an ego job where you get to ask people for money to their face and get told no to your face. And that is way harder. And I will die on that hill, man. If we want to have a marketer on here and no, have you ever tried to pull up a Tableau dashboard to tell the board about the latest spend on pay-per-click? I'm like, fuck that, dude. It's not that hard. Like your ego's not really involved, brother. Anyways,
got a buddy of mine that's a marketer. Him and I were lobbing missiles back and forth at each other, literally on our podcast. Dude. It was awesome. But you're right. It's kind of that dichotomy between sales and marketing.
Yeah, and I honestly, it's a classic. Like, I couldn't do their job, they couldn't do mine.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
You put me in charge of marketing and B2B, part of my French. Like, you put me in charge of a whole marketing, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I would think. The way I would think, and the way I think that the world is going is very, very content driven. So when I see marketers do things that are not about storytelling and value building and case studies and examples and collaboration, right? Because there's like two different things. There's like the way you tell your story internally and the way you message to the public on your website. Then there's how you get people there. And it's not just media buying and just paying for ads. It's collaborations, it's partnerships, it's finding people that have synergistic audiences and doing things with them. I see a lot of like the best tech companies doing a ton of that. And I look at that
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that is smart. That is really smart to pull people over from this audience, doing a podcast, doing a webinar, doing a thing, co-hosting a booth at an event, doing a happy
Right.
hour at Salesforce, at Dreamforce, whatever it is, right? Like all these things that are collaborative. I think that's a really good way to market. But
Dude,
anyways, back to
I never
you
really
asked me the
thought about
question.
that, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you asked me the question. When people have invested some time, effort, and money in this, then I know I have a good chance in the deal because they are committed to it. And when I offer them a solution to this problem, they've
Mm-hmm.
already committed to it and they're going to invest in it further, more than likely. Now, when I lose is when they come to me skeptical that Outbound's going to work.
Right.
And then when I drop my price point and our structure and all this stuff in the 90-day or 6-month commitment, and they go, oh my God. Ugh.
And then everybody loses.
Well, in their mind, if you have not tried to do the thing, you don't know how
Right.
hard the thing is, right?
Exactly.
You can watch people surfing all day and then someone says, hey, you want to paddle out? Well, I'm sure I could, but I just, today, maybe not today.
I just
Well,
did
it's
my hair.
actually a lot harder than you think it is. And once you get out in the water and get flipped over with the board on top of your face, you're going to say,
Right.
holy crap, that's not what I thought it was. So,
Dude, actually,
yeah.
That kind of goes into my next question I've got. So you're finding people when they've kind of already done their efforts and so on. But have you also seen it from small businesses? So let's just say that they didn't use your service. They're trying to pour all of this money into these particular efforts and they decide to go with, I don't know, let me put some wheels to it. Let's say that they've got an internal SDR team. So they've got that general function. What do you see is usually the next constraint? I mean, are we talking, is it budget? Is it time? Is it the expertise part? Is it consistency? And does it make it hard to sustain that from what you've been able to tell if they don't have a good system in place? Does it kind of just fall apart, even if it's
Yeah.
something that they feel like they've built up pretty well long term? But do you think it's one of those that it just degrades after a while?
Great question. So I started a training consulting business in 2022 called
Mm-hmm.
Calling Culture. So I believe that one of the biggest problems in small businesses like that is not really the tooling. Maybe it's not even the people. Maybe it's not the market. Because if you have headcount and you haven't fired everybody in the first 6 months, you must be doing the accounting to see, are you getting a return on your investment on the SDR efforts? When it starts
Right.
to stagnate, that's when you can sort of say, we have a culture problem. And I do believe that culture comes from like consistent, thoughtful leadership around what people do every day, right? So with calling culture, I would come into organizations that had 5 reps and I would tell the CEO, my sale to the head of sales and CEO is like, I will tell you who on your team is good, who on your team is bad, who's going to make it and who I recommend shouldn't be here. I'm going to give them a plan to succeed and we're going to start doing things that are awkward but lead to success, right? So it never fails to get to really weed out the winners and losers.
Yeah.
Call review. One time a week, an outside guy, not an inside guy. It's tough when it's your boss or when it's your compadre at work. An outside guy comes in and I sit there with the team and we review your cold calls. And you have to show up with a call that's interesting. So you have to be doing the work of cold calling and you have to think, okay, this is something that I can either learn from or something that I want to brag about. And either one are welcomed, right? So what you end up seeing is people show up with baloney to those or they show up with nothing. And of course, they're falling off the leaderboard. It's a cultural problem, not necessarily a tooling problem.
I'm going to go sidebar for a second on this one, but I like that you're reviewing those outbound calls and looking for little tweaks and stuff like that. When I was a head of sales at a prior company, I did the same thing for my account executives. And the idea of it was I wanted to look and see of like how long that they were actually staying in the discovery, because if you looked at it statistically, if we could find a second use case, our chances of closing a deal absolutely skyrocketed. But you get a lot of that time where somebody will just get into a rut. They just want to fix whatever the problem that was like easiest or upfront at hand. And they go through the rest of the sales process real quick and lose the deal because they never actually gave it a good discovery and a good chance of being able to go through. And one of the things that we did is we built up that team where literally everybody was there digging into it, trying to figure out, because not only were they help educating that one account executive, everybody else was learning as well and kind of rounding out their game too. And it was amazing on what we saw from an increase in close rate simply because of implementing that. So I like it that you do it from the SDR side as well.
The way I say that, by the way, John, hold on. The way I say that, the way I always tell people is like, do you think Tom Brady became Tom Brady in the gym?
Right.
No, he wasn't in the gym. He didn't have the biggest muscles. He didn't have the biggest legs. He didn't have the biggest arm in football. Tom Brady became Tom Brady because of the film room. He spent more time sitting next to Bill Belichick reviewing film, and he was a brilliant football mind. So when it came time to execute, he knew exactly what he could and couldn't do and exactly what to look for in the defenses. It's the same thing that we do in calling culture.
Well, and being from Michigan, I think it's also because he played for Michigan. So I'll add that little caveat.
Hey, there you go. I like that.
Dude, before we jump into the systems piece of it, I basically wrote down all my SDR questions and just threw them at you. I've got one left. You were talking about, culture and training and reviewing and so on. Do you see a split when it comes to a company handling something internal versus where they are using an agency for it versus where if that agency is then using like nearshore or offshore talent as well? Do you see that shift from a conversion to meeting or maybe any other particular statistics that kind of come to mind that people need to be considering when they're looking at this?
So the part of that question that I can address directly is a lot of companies think that, so here's something that's interesting that I think your audience will resonate with. When it comes to outbound, a lot of it comes back to the golden rule. Like, do you know what the golden rule is?
Yep.
Do unto others as you would want done to you, right? So a lot of founders break the golden rule and they say, well, outbound, I got the email agency. We got 5,000 emails a day going out, man. It'll be great. Oh, so calling. Yeah, my guy in the Philippines, he's got a team. We got 6 dudes. They're calling all day and night. We're going to build the pipeline in 5 minutes. And then you sit down and you say, hey, when's the last time you replied to a cold email? Well, I'm too busy to answer cold emails. When's the last time you took a cold call and you heard someone with a thick accent who didn't really understand your culture at all, and you booked a strategic meeting with them? Well, I don't pick up my phone. No, it's golden rule. Okay, like if you want quality results with outbound, it can't just be a straight volume metric because 99% of us don't look at cold email anymore. We trash cold email, right? And spam filters are getting better and better. Hell, I have an agent that runs my inbox. Oh, free shout out, dude, town.com. It's a purpose-built AI agent that handles all my inbox. I don't even see cold emails, dude.
That's awesome.
It has all the context on all my meetings. It reads Slack. It prompts things for me. It's like, it's something that you could definitely build with Claude or Codex, but they charge $15 a month for it or something like that. It's totally worth it because it's just purpose-built, connects to everything, and it just makes it so I don't see anything I don't want to see. And so that's kind of the future. Hint, hint.
Right.
That's that's where Gmail's going to go. Okay. That's where Yahoo's going to go. That's where Microsoft's going to go. You're going to have an agent that plays guard on everything. By the way, the final frontier will come to a halt. That's where our phones are going to go. All right. Like Siri is the dumbest that it will ever be right now. I mean, my phone used to be for years and years, my phone was the smartest thing I owned. Now it's the dumbest thing I touch. Siri is useless. If I need something done, I go to Claude or I go to ChatGPT, and it is 10x smarter because it understands the context. It understands me. It knows why I'm asking about certain things and knows to connect things. The phones are going to do that. And when you have an agent on your phone that runs your phone, cold calling is going to have a hard time. And I don't know what the answer is, dude. I don't know what the answer is, but cold calling is going to be fucking brutal.
Well, you kind of squared it up for even just my next question I got for you. You're making this easy on me, Kevin. So for a small business that's wanting to build like a reliable outbound system, I want to get to the system side of this one. You've kind of already addressed it, but I want to kind of tag that one again. And what are the essential pieces that need to be in place so that you can have a consistent pipeline?
Awesome. Great question. So I'm going to explain this in elementary terms and list a bunch of different technologies that do this, because at the end of the day, like, I'm not sponsored by any of these people, and like what I use might not be what you want to use, but I'll explain in the most basic sense, like what you need in order to succeed. In its most basic format, you need some form of CRM. And the CRM I'm talking about here is not just a traditional CRM where you track deals. You need a place to organize and structure data, full stop, right? That could be Salesforce, that could be HubSpot, that could be Attio. It could be one of the CRMs that are popular these days, Copper CRM, Zoho, whatever.
Yeah.
From there needs to be functionality either natively inside of it, which a lot of these platforms do not have natively, or you need to buy another system that will organize and structure data into campaigns. Okay. The big secret, again, I'm giving secrets to your audience here. You can take this Hormozy style and do whatever you want with it. You will succeed if you listen to what I'm saying.
Right.
You need to organize these leads into campaigns. The big secret with Outbound is to do it by campaign, by similarity, and batch things up so that you have similar conversations with a lot of people in a row, right? This is the Henry Ford edition of how to do this. And there's a reason Henry Ford is a billionaire.
Right.
Okay. It's because he figured out it's a system, and it's not one dude who puts on the tires, who affixes the thing, that affixes the thing, that affixes the thing. Everything in the assembly line, all you do is put tires on. You became the master putter tire oner, right? All your CRM does is house all of your data. That's all it does. Your next layer on top is going to be it's a category called sales engagement, pioneered by companies like SalesLoft and Outreach, right? Now there's Apollo. Now there's freaking 40 different companies that do this. Sales engagement takes those leads in a very friendly structure, organizes them into campaigns. When I say friendly, you can now plug all sorts of stuff into it, right? So now I have all of these similar companies in a campaign. I can plug an email sending machine into it and pump that data out to the emails. I can put a dialer on top of it and pump call tasks up to the dialer. And guess what? Because they're all touching each other, the data should flow all the way back to your CRM. These systems are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. But that really is all you need to succeed in terms of like hard systems. The next piece of the pie that you cannot get away from is contact data. This is one that I see. I mean, I had a consulting client last month. They hired me to bring in calling culture and to train their reps, and they had 6 reps. Their data was so poor that I ended up like basically just saying to built this whole report and sent it to the VP of sales saying, you're not getting anywhere close to the value out of my time, effort, and the money you paid, because I can't coach them because they make 400 calls and talk to 5 wrong numbers. And that's the only thing they do in a day. They're not having any conversations. You need good quality contact data. And I wish there was one solution for that. There is not. It's market specific, it's industry specific, it's all sorts of things. If you're a bigger organization, ZoomInfo is the gold standard for contact data. If you're a smaller, scrappy organization, Apollo IO is a great solution. Every database, now let me say this one more time, another gold nugget, every database is about 40% inaccurate. Well, Kevin, why would we buy the database if it's going to be 40%? Because there's no
because it's 60% accurate.
Yes. No database is 100% accurate. And now that you know that, you can tell your reps that, and they can't complain, right?
Right.
You want to be a ninja, you want another gold nugget here, invest into a way to validate the data that you're buying. There are lots of solutions out there, ConnectRate.ai, SureConnect.ai, TitanX. I mean, there's a bunch of different services to validate data that will save you so much time and money in the long run. But it's a hard pitch if you have like an old school, no offense to all my white-haired homies. If you got a white-haired sales leader, back in my day, we didn't have to do lead validation. We had to pick up the phone. You need to make more calls, Johnny. Make more calls. I've heard this time and again. And Johnny's busting his ass on the phone trying to call.
Right.
And he's not connected with the right people. And the leadership just yells, more leads, more leads. The smart modern way to do it is to think about each one of these, each piece of this pie of the puzzle as a strategic piece that you can optimize over time, right?
Right.
So that's the
Dude,
elementary foundation of this sort of stuff.
keep the consulting hat on for a second. I want to go one step further on this one. So you've worked with this client. You've got it so that their like outbound strategy is actually generating conversations and meetings. We're doing good on that side. What practices help small businesses convert those opportunities more effectively versus just letting them kind of go cold and die on the vine? Do you have anything that once it's been transferred to the sales department, is there anything that you specifically do or consult that it kind of keeps those opportunities going? Or do you handle any of that strategy once it's actually gotten to the sales team?
Yeah, I am a sales development guy. If I
Right.
knew how to close, I'd be a closing coach. Like I joke that the only thing I know how to close is like cold calling shit. Cause like I've made over $1 million in the last, handful of years here selling cold
Right.
calling and sales development. I do not know anything about how to really close deals in sales.
Yeah.
It's a mystery to me. If I had figured that out, like it's like my Batman origin story. Like if I had not been such an orphaned weird sales rep who never really learned how to close, maybe I'd still be in sales. I'd just be a closer. I'd be working at a company with a base salary and on target earnings and making good money. I never figured it out. I never really was a top-notch closer. I was a middle of the pack sales rep at best. I got fired from a sales job for missing quota. Like I'm not that guy. Not that guy, pal.
All
I'll
right,
get
I
into it.
apologize on that one, dude. You were flowing so well with it. I was like, man, I got to just take this a little bit further. And I knew it was kind of outside the scope. So
Yeah. No, it's okay. And it's fine. Like I am very self-actualized. I know what I am and what I'm not. And I have no shame in my game telling you that. If you're listening to this and thinking, I got to hire Kevin to train my sales reps. Now, if you need help with outbound sales and you're trying to build a predictable funnel outbound, yes, that is my area, my expertise, 1000%. I'm a preeminent voice in the space and I'm very, very, very good at it. And so I will hang my hat on that. But when it comes to closing, dude, I don't know. I have no idea. Now,
dude,
let's caveat all that, John. Let's caveat all that
Yeah.
with I have a very particular, again, giving away the sauce, giving away the secrets, a very particular way that I tell account executives to deal with cold meetings set on their calendar. Most account executives think of cold calling meetings as like, well, they're not ready to buy. Yeah, no shit, dude. They're not ready to buy. If you had people banging down your door ready to buy, you wouldn't need to do outbound. That's not how this works.
Exactly.
Right. And so there are organizations that have both going, and it's a venture capital thing, right? It's just kind of dumb. Like the last consulting client I had, they had a 10-person inbound SDR team because they get 2,000 leads a month. They get a ton of leads, but they still want to grow. Why? Because they got investment. You got to light time on fire. You can't, you got so many people coming inbound that you're picking all those up, but you're like, okay, I want to go after those people too. Very rare. Most small businesses are not in that scenario, right? So the way that we deal with cold meetings and the big golden nugget here, the tip around how to set up sales for success here starts in the cold call, right? So the rep, when they're scheduling the meeting, should say, look, Steve, we've had a great conversation here. Based on what you shared with me, you get a lot of value as sitting down with Jon. Jon's actually an expert at exactly the vertical that you are in and has onboarded many customers just like you and solved problems like we talked about. Now, Jon's got some time on Tuesday at 2:00. Does that work for you? Awesome. It does. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Is this your email? Okay. Confirmed. I just sent that over. Can you accept that? So it's on your calendar. Do you see it? Yeah, sure. Cool. Get them to accept on the call. That's nugget number one. Number two, before you hang up, you pump up Jon. Once again, got to pump up Jon. Got to make it seem like they're going to a rock concert to see Bon Jovi. Look, Jon's really going to be excited to talk about you. We had actually talked about your account earlier this week. Jon's with the company for X amount of years, and he's one of our best guys. And I wouldn't pull your leg on that one. Wink, wink. Right? We pump up Jon. Jon is now Bon Jovi.
Right.
Now, when we send this meeting over, it's not just a meeting booked on the calendar that shows up, and now that it's confirmed, it's an email introduction from the BDR or SDR to Jon, CCing the prospect. Jon just had a great conversation with Steve. He's excited to talk about this challenge in his business that we just discussed. I'll let you two take it from here. Adios. Boom. Jon gets into that thread. He sees it. He takes a look at it. Maybe he listens to the call. The BDR slacks it to him internally or sends it to him internally. Okay, cool. Here all the context. Hey, Steve, noticed you went to Northwestern University. Go Cats. My dad went there. That's awesome, man. Noticed you're running things over here. I'm going to have a tailored demo ready for us to walking through the exact use case of what you do. Now, this work takes like 10 minutes. Yes, I'm asking for an AE to do 10 minutes of work for a BDR to make sure that this meeting is valuable. The last step, the fourth golden nugget, go add the person on LinkedIn. Face to name to face. Your LinkedIn should not be shitty. It should be good. It should be on brand. You should have a smiling picture of your face. So when someone looks at it, they say, I want to meet with that guy. I'm okay with meeting that guy. That guy seems like he's trustworthy. Like he's someone that deserves my time and effort. All of these steps will drastically reduce your no-show rate. Drastically. Most weird SDR functions have this like adversarial relationship where BDR throws a meeting on there and the AE rolls their eyes and doesn't say a word until the day of the meeting and shows up. And if the person isn't ready to buy, they're pissed. Right. And it's just the worst, right? So big part of calling culture is teeing up both sides to be ready for this. Because cold is not about buying today. They don't have a current project. Maybe they do. That's really lucky. But you stumble into that in cold. Most of the time, they are curious about potentially solving a problem. So this is where like real selling happens. And I've had this conversation many times, Jon, like at least a dozen times when I'm doing consulting with VPs. And I'm like, you need to let me have a session with your AEs to explain everything I just explained to you. I need a session with them and I need them to push back. And you need to see it. The VP needs to be there. It's a 30-minute call. I'm leading the call. VP, you ride along. You're watching all your reps react to this. And I'm going to ask them for Q&A. I'm going to ask them for feedback. I'm going to ask them to say what they like or don't like about the process, right? And then now we have a new established way that they interact with BDR meetings. And if they don't do it and all of a sudden, well, you know, Kate and Johnny were paired up and they don't seem to be generating any pipeline. Go look at the procedure. Are they following the procedure? Probably not. Kate, the AE thinks she's hot shit and doesn't want to put any effort in. Thinks the BDRs should deliver hot meetings every time. Not how it works, man. You got to sell.
Exactly. I mean, if it's one of those things where they're not coming to you, you're reaching out to them. You're not going to catch them at the prime time, more than likely. Let me ask you this one though, Kevin. So you have it now where the VP is the one that's kind of taking a look at things. For we'll call it a happy, healthy outbound strategy. Are there particular metrics or anything of that you suggest that people track or that you personally follow or anything from a consulting perspective?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to outbound, it's like a very good indication that an outbound channel is going to be effective for you is a conversion rate in B2B. Like I like to see a conversion rate on an actual conversation, not on a dial, not on a wrong number. You have to be able to set up a system in the dialer to track what's happening in every call, right? So disposition mapping is actually really, really important if you're going to understand qualitatively and quantitatively what's going on. A lot of organizations buy these dialer softwares for like 30 grand a year, and then they don't set up the dispositions. Dispositions are not interested, busy, and they learn nothing from them. Yeah,
garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. So then they sit back and they look at it. They're like, well, 40% of the calls are not interested. Well, we got to get them interested. Like, whoa, back up. How the fuck are you supposed to get them interested? Like, that's not how this works. We got to understand why they're not interested. What's going on in that, right? So the healthy conversion rate I look for as phone, as a channel in particular, is anywhere between 10 and 20%. Like a good rep who understands what's going on. It's not their first day on the job. They've been in the role for more than a month or so. They've had some time on the phone. They're not stumbling over their words and puking on themselves when they get into a cold conversation. If they get on the phone with the right kind of person, it should be about a 15% conversion rate. That's a really good indication that you should be able to scale that math, right? That's a really scalable number. Now, if your conversion rate's lower, or if your conversion rate's higher, those are indications of where you want to push, right? If your conversion rate's higher, hire more people, get more meetings in the door. Your conversion rate's lower, call me. I'll train your reps. But we got to look at the macro numbers too. The macro numbers are important, meaning of how many dials your team makes in a week or a month, how
Mm-hmm.
many good conversations they're even getting into, right? So like, remember the client I talked about, the consulting client that has terrible data? I just did an analysis using my number one highest paid employee, Claude, and asked Claude to look at all their dial data and present a colorful report that was very easy for the CEO and CFO and VP of sales to read, which said 92% of the time that your reps are picking up the phone and calling, they're not reaching the right person. You don't have to be a math major. That is not an effort problem. That is not a people problem. That is not a technology problem. They had best in class tech. They had some of the best tech around. It was a data problem.
Yep.
So we got to
Dude, I've
highlight
been
that.
there. 1,100 calls in a week, and you might have gotten a hold of 4 or 5 people. Even it's that spray and pray. Yeah, that doesn't work out. It's not an effort problem. It's one of those things. You're right. It's the data. Dude, I had several questions. I'm going to just kind of mesh this all up together. Just because, in all honesty, I think you've touched the vast majority of it anyway, and I think it will kind of make it cleaner anyway. AI is really changing things. They've got all of these different programs and tools that are out there as well that are starting to kind of wise up to cold outreach and so on. If you've got a small business that is wanting to implement an outbound strategy, and let's just say that they're going to try to, stiff upper lip it and they're just going to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What is your method? From a suggestion of things that they need to implement from a strategy wise to where do they need to have humans in the loop? Where can they implement AI? Where can they ease that? And then finally, where I'm getting ready to drive to is once they throw up their hands and they're actually wanting to call you and use your services, kind of that method of getting there too.
For sure. For sure. So think about it in the broadest sense of, okay, we want to grow outbound. In order to grow outbound, you need to have a good indication of who your target market is. Okay, now it sounds like, well, no shit, Sherlock. But companies that have not invested in sales, right? There are lots of companies out there that have tiny little sales teams and bajillions of dollars in revenue. Okay. And so if you have mostly people coming to you, you have really high dollar accounts that are relationship driven, you can run a crazy profitable business, right? And that's kind of like goals, man. Like I talked to my dad and my uncle about this. My uncle's a restaurateur and he's like a really wealthy guy. And he's like, yeah, I mean, my favorite thing to do is to be out and about and be the richest guy in the room and no one knows. I'm like, sick. That's what I want to be too. I don't need to be on TikTok or Instagram or the cover of a magazine. I just want to be really wealthy and no one know my name.
Right.
Small profitable business. That's the goal, right? Highly profitable. So, in the broadest sense, I think about it in these categories. Who do we want to talk to? All right. Go look at your client list, look at who you have sold things to and try to draw correlations and similarities there. This can be really hard if you run like a PLG type business where people come to your website, sign up and do their own thing. You have to run some real analyses. Good news, AI makes this shit easy, man. Like, come on. Like, you can run an analysis on your data and figure out who a good target market would be to go after. If you have a good sense of who you want to go after, next question is, how are you going to go after them? Right? Okay, we want to make cold calls. Awesome. I already gave you that secret to success. You need a way to organize the data and a master place for it all to flow back to. You need a way to organize the campaigns and you need a way to take action on that, which is a dialer pretty much, right? So now you have the 3 steps there. So we have who we're going after, we have how we're going to call them, and then the last piece is basically just what are we going to say and who in the organization is going to do it, right? Okay, cool. Billy's going to do it. I'm going to have Billy buy Kevin's online course or, whatever. You can follow some LinkedIn influencers. You can get pretty far, man. Or just if you were just to ask Claude today, like, hey, pretend you're a B2B cold calling trainer. Give me your top 5 tips. It's pretty dang good, man. Like, it does a good job. I am sort of surprised now when I get calls for consulting because AI can get you so far. But at the end of the day, people like working with people. So
They do.
If you're a small business, though, you can get a lot of this knowledge out of a Claude or a ChatGPT and just asking it very, very specific things, right? We could do a whole podcast on prompting Claude and prompting AI.
Right.
That would be really helpful. But okay, so once you establish who's going to do it, they need to get a little education around it. Now they have the systems. Now they have the targeting. It's really those three buckets. And a lot of companies will just do the first bucket, which is just like, or the last bucket, I should say, which is I hired Bob and Bob will figure it out. It's not the case, right? So strategically, before you hire anybody, you should understand your market. You should understand a plan on how to enable someone to go succeed. And the bad news is, like, I'm not hawking tools here because I love giving vendors business. Truthfully, the bad news is the best thing that we can possibly do is invest in technology to do these things faster, because less people today are picking up the phone. Almost nobody replies to cold emails. So there's an unavoidable volume component to this, right? And I will argue tooth and nail on that point. A lot of people out there that don't actually do outbound sales are like, it's all about quality over quantity. Yeah, bro, cool. Write the best email ever and send it out and watch it not get replied to.
Exactly.
You got to send a volume, dude. You have to have volume to succeed, because it's so easy to ignore people these days. That being said, you left it open for me to give my shameless pitch. SmartBound, we help organizations with people, process, and technology. Mash together that with your market and your message. If you are scaling and have a defined growth initiative, your business needs to go get new conversations in your market. We're the ones to get that for you. So reach out, Kevin at smartbound.ai. Website is smartbound.ai. Go check it out. You can listen to live calls. You can read our case studies. You can see all our marketing stuff. Everything's there. My phone number's on there too. Give me a call.
Dude, I love it. Kevin, this has been such good information. I'm more on the closing aspect to it. So having where it's talking about outbound, outreach, getting the systems in place to being able to do that effectively. I like it. I learn a lot. So thank you so much for the time. Thank you for joining. Listeners, if you want to reach out to Kevin, please do. His information is listed as is, but it's also going to be in the description below as well. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
And thank you.